Controversial takes time. Hey!
What?
Controversial takes time. Time for controversial takes. Yeah, we're doing that story. And I've neglected to talk to this'n about the fandom's perspective of it, because I want fresh eyes.
Oh, okay.
But we'll get to that one. Welcome back to Doctor Who Review. I am Chris.
I am not.
And we're here to talk about Modern Doctor Who Season 12, Part 2, Praxeus on Horns. Let's just start with Praxeus, shall we?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it was a very Doctor Who story.
You know what? Praxeus and... Praxeus, to me, feels like a cracking Third Doctor adventure that would work better as a Third Doctor adventure with all of the trimmings of 70s television and 3 or 4 parts. And do you know what I mean? It just, to me, I mean, you wouldn't necessarily set it in like 3 different locations around the world. You'd probably set it in 1 different place in 3 different spots. But like,
unit.
it feels it's an environmental fable that barrels along at a pace until it doesn't. When we just sort of stay in one room and look at a bird's corpse for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, We've been a bit more pros and consy recently. Pros, I think the entire supporting cast are quite good. I think everybody's fairly entertaining.
Yeah.
The vloggers are a bit... I mean, one we don't really get to know, but the whole like, you don't know who we are, you don't know who I am, is a bit alright. But I don't think the performance is bad.
I'm going to be honest, I have met people like that.
Okay, fair play.
There was one girl, I made a little joke about the product that she was biting.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, oh my god, it was only a matter of time till somebody recognised me. Oh my god, it's nice to meet you. And I was like, I've got no idea who you are.
I don't know who the hell you is.
I didn't want to burst a bubble, but I kind of wanted to burst a bubble, but I didn't.
You did kind of want to burst the bubble.
I kind of want to just be like,
who?
Where? Who are you?
Bubble. Burst us. Yeah, vulgar. I think everyone in it is pretty great. I think Warren Brown as Jake is the standout, the semi-retired copper looking for his husband.
He was retired, he was on sabbatical.
Yeah, well, that's what he kept saying.
Due to stress.
That's what he kept saying. Everyone else calls him a former copper.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's a copper anymore.
They were the most uncouple-like couple I've ever seen.
But, I mean, I'd agree, but I also totally believe they're a couple.
Yeah, well...
Do you know what I mean? Like, they're very much the opposites attract kind of vibe.
It was very...
Like, I think Jake and Adam are a lovely touch to this, because as a viewer, the first time you watch it, you're like, why is this copper so interested, or this former copper so interested in this astronaut's disappearance? Why did the astronaut text him?
I'm not going to lie.
And then as the story, develops, and you're like, oh, they're married. Like, they're separated, but they're married. Okay, so that's why he's been brought into the story. It did seem a bit random up until that point.
I thought it was his brother, because I thought they looked the same.
Oh dear. Oh, maybe they fancy themselves, and they just see it in each other.
Oh no.
Oh dear.
Oh no.
Molly Harris has some lovely moments as Suki. Weirdly though, when it's revealed she knew exactly what was going along the whole time, it's played like a baddie. And then it's played more realistic after that. The whole thing of like, this isn't how we wanted this to go. I'm desperate. But like, briefly before that, she plays it like a villain monologue, and that seems maybe a choice of the direction rather, because she's very good at it. And then you go, oh, surprise reveal, and then it's surprise reveal, but it's not like there's a mastermind here. I think Jamie Magnus Stone does a good job directing this. Ultimately, it definitely feels like we travel to different places around the world.
Yeah,
and the threat of the birds is very solid when they start attacking. For example, like it feels solid. It's not birdemic. But
that's true.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's kind of a nothing burger, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning, it seemed like quite a, adventurous, exciting story because
the companions and the Doctor are already off in separate places, investigating something already.
And then she's got a skeleton key for every lock in the universe. What the hell? Where's that come from? Where did that go?
I mean, sonic screwdriver, I guess.
But-
Like, yeah, it's
No, she had a key. It was like
it's for the
on a ring of
warehouses in Hong
keys,
Kong. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what?
But I mean, like, that's what the sonic screwdriver does. So if the Doctor's not going to give the sonic to Yaz, then hey, here's a literal skeleton key.
Bizarre.
Um,
But yeah, I thought, and then it was like, oh.
the idea that we saw, it felt very much like sort of one of the books, maybe. The idea that we saw the investigations happening from the point of view of different people, and then they stumble into the Doctor's story, and you're like, oh, they've already been looking into this, but they've not seen these three perspectives because this wasn't on their radar. So like they learn more about it as time goes on. I like the effects of Praxeus. I think the makeup is creepy, and I think the final sort of thing that happens to people is like, oh god, oh, that's horrid.
Why do they explode?
Well, that's the thing. Well, it's an alien virus, isn't it? That's the point. It's an alien virus.
I think
so we don't really learn the extent. We just get the
It
basics.
would have been cool if they like fossilized or something. Because they kind of do at the end and then they explode.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you've seen it, but
I suppose they have to explode because then the people from the planet that Suki was from couldn't study any bodies that were left behind to learn more about it because the bodies just deteriorate.
That's why they like the birds.
Yeah, that was the thing, wasn't it? Like the birds were essentially going to spread it, and then they were going to study it through humanity. But like at the same time, it wasn't intended. It wasn't like out and out. Oh, we're going to infect humanity. It was like this started to happen. The virus began to learn and adapt, and specifically it adapted to like utilizing microplastics as a way for transmission. So if the birds would have spread around the world, it would have got into the water. It would have got into
all because they wanted a cure.
Yeah.
The planet was an experiment. But
I think the sets are nice.
Yeah.
I like the sort of the submarine to spaceship bastardized tunnel thing under the ocean. And the fact that it had kind of levels, because it would do. It's the surface of the ocean. It's not flat.
Can I finish my point?
Sorry, yeah. I'm just trying to get the cons out, because the pros out, because everything else I'm about to say is so meh.
I don't know if you've seen this. It's more on my radar than yours, but people experimenting with 3D printing on fabric.
No.
So mostly like cosplays and stuff. They've tried 3D printing onto fine fabrics.
Yeah.
So you can use them as like scales.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's exactly what it made me think of.
Oh, the actual Praxeus.
Yeah,
visual,
the skin. Yeah, which I thought was really cool.
Because the effects and makeup team really good job in this one. Yeah.
But it's a very satisfying thing to watch 3D printing on fabric. It's really cool. But that's what it made me think of, and that was a pro for me.
Yeah, I just think the rest of it's kind of boring.
The lighting, again, I go on about it constantly.
All the shots on the beach look great. The pop and the neons in Hong Kong look really good.
Yeah, I love a good neon.
But it's just like Ryan, Yaz, and Graham get a lot of really nice moments. Yaz taking the initiative and being like, "Right, no, hang on, there was this thing. I want to go back and check on it. Come get me in an hour." And the Doctor being like, "Fine."
She's
She's
been risque, isn't she? Yaz, this.
Well, she's sort of taking that initiative a lot more and being like, "No, I can do this.
Yeah.
Let me do this. It's fine. You can trust me to do this." But it's just overall, it's
not very impactful.
Yeah, and it's obviously got a message, and I do hope that it taught younger viewers what microplastics are, and kind of nudged the idea of, this is why we need to find ways to have more sustainable methods and more recyclable materials, so that you're not dumping crap in the ocean and leading to stuff getting in the atmosphere.
I'm 100% on that.
Yeah,
but we just
this is where we differed on this one. Is it because we just had Orphan 55 2 weeks prior?
Yeah,
3 weeks prior. Yeah,
we already had.
You felt like we were being beaten over the head a bit.
Yeah, maybe that's because we watched it in quick succession. But
at the time in 2020, I kind of felt like that.
Yeah.
Revisiting it now for the marathon, I don't feel it as much.
Did you not?
I think the difference is Orphan 55 ends with the Doctor lecturing her friends.
Yeah.
Like, you can change this. And obviously it's meant to be to the viewer, but it's sort of like she's doing it to her mates. It feels kind of weird. Whereas in this one, she just kind of mentions what it is and is like, that's the way things are going to go. And they're using it to this, that, and the other. So, like, I didn't mind it in this so much.
If this episode had been before that one, that would have made sense.
Sort of an escalation almost, yeah.
And then they thought like, oh god, the microplastics with the Praxeus, that would have made more sense. But it was like a big environmental impact story and warning, and then another little one afterwards that just doesn't really make sense.
It feels like maybe they needed to bring it up, like bring up Orphan 55.
Yeah.
Because then in the next episode it would feel like that build-up's been quite a natural progression with Ryan's nightmare. But it just... Yeah. I just feel Praxeus is a bit of a nothing burger. It's just, you eat it and you go, yeah, alright, okay.
Oh, nothing burger.
I got the nutrients I needed out of that. That's kind of it.
Yeah.
Really. It's not bad like Orphan 55, it's just kind of dull.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because I don't think ones with important messages should be, but at the same time I feel like sci-fi always works really well as an allegory rather than a
lesson.
I mean, defining lesson, I suppose, more than a PSA. Like Star Trek, the original run, and obviously several versions of it since, balance that brilliantly. The idea of this is about fascism, this is about poverty, this is about racism, this is about broken systems, this is about greed. But they always kind of it's thematic. It's not the plot. The plot can dip into it, and I think it should, because sometimes you have viewers who won't pick up on the message very easily. But at the same time, like, you're presenting a tale to us. I always find that balance it's key to it being enjoyable for everybody. Like giving you the message you need, but also, not just handing you a leaflet with the information on it and saying, read that. All right, here's the credits.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Please don't think I'm stupid. What does PSA stand for?
Oh, public service announcement.
Ah. For some reason,
Imagine if I didn't know. I was just throwing the letters PSA around.
I thought it was like personal statement.
All right.
Acknowledge or something.
Oh dear. No, a public service announcement. So, this is your brain on crack. Like, things that are basically like, here's a thing, learn about it. Here's a thing, don't do this. That was a public service announcement from my ass.
Stop. Get help.
Yeah, exactly. That's a public service announcement.
Yeah.
Do you have any written notes for Praxeus?
I don't.
You don't?
I don't. I'm not going to lie to you. I've not got notes for the next bulk of episodes.
None at all?
No. Wait, let me check. But I don't think I have.
This is where you open it up next video and you start reading out notes about birds. And it's like, oh wait, hang on. Oh, I did. Damn it.
Nope. Not a single one. Sorry.
Now, that usually means you've enjoyed it.
Well, it means I was watching it, like, intently.
Yeah, whereas in this case, I think it's partially also because we were barreling. It was like, yeah, alright, keep watching.
Yeah, I am currently suffering from an injury. So I'm on quite a lot of medication, so I'm trying really hard to stay awake.
So box setting's actually kind of helping, I guess?
Yeah, it's very relaxing and calming to watch, and I think I think it's helped me enjoy Jodie more.
Yeah.
Because she's such a sassy doctor, but not a scary one until she's like angry.
Well, we'll get into that, won't we? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, also, these stories start a trend of bringing back the pre-credit sequence.
Yeah, I like that.
There's a few of those this series. Can you hear me? We get the pre-credit sequence set in Aleppo in 1380 with Tahira, who I can't remember the name of the creature, but we learn that the place she's in is essentially a mental hospital. It's a wellness retreat / kind of
mental health facility.
Yes, that's the one. In Aleppo in 1380, and people are being stalked by these creatures that she's aware of. Like, she sees them, she's the one who believes in them. These giant, like, Yeti sloth-looking things. That looked great, by the way. They looked really good.
Yeah, it did. But Christopher was like, you know how you don't like sloths? And then that thing came on, it was like, oh, cool.
Great. Nightmare sloths. But yeah, this is essentially Doctor Who does the Everyone Has Nightmares episode. Sort of. We get a bit of that.
Yeah.
This is a not too on the nose allegory for depression and chronic anxiety, and it takes the time to sort of address that directly in the final 5 minutes by making the final 5 minutes about that, and specifically Yaz's battle with depression that led to her one day just wandering off into the arse end of nowhere. Maybe she just wanted to never be found. Maybe she just wanted to keep walking and go somewhere else. Maybe she wanted to jump in the road. We never really find out what she was planning. We just know that every year, her sister Sonia marks the occasion that she, called the police and got someone to find her.
That is a strange thing to. I think.
Well, the reason Yasmin even says do we need to keep doing this? But Sonia's Sonia sort of intimates that it's more for her in the first place, not for Yaz. It's for Sonia.
It's more of a check-in.
Yeah, it's just to be are we cool? Is everything all right? But I like that. I do like the idea that they have this there's this little thing between them once a year, where they just get together, have dinner, and it's just specifically so that Sonia can check in on Yaz.
Yeah, that's very cute.
And I think it does actually make more sense in their relationship now, considering how little Yaz is at home.
Yeah.
Because as far as everyone's concerned, she's, she's off with the forces on some secret stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, just want to point out, who's the actress that plays Yaz?
Mandip Gill.
She can pull off being a teenager. Well, she could then.
Oh yeah, just letting her hair down. She looked so much more kind of...
so young and...
Yeah, just kind of... There was a... I'm trying to think how to describe it.
Youthful?
Yeah. For lack of whatever it is I'm trying to say and I can't figure out. She definitely just came across as a lot more of a youthful version of herself. The thing is, Mandip's she's not that far out of her 20s. I mean, she's 35 now. So when they were recording this series, she'd been 31. Wow. Yeah. So, 35 as the recording of this video, folks. By the time this video goes out, she will be 36. But yeah, Yaz's nightmare being the most prevalent one, because obviously it's the whole, tying into an event that happened.
Yeah.
And in the twisted version of it, her sister's there basically going no one's coming to find you.
Yeah.
And everything, and the police officers are just standing there, staring at her, not talking to her. Ryan's nightmare, I've got to say, I really like Ryan's plot here with his mate Tibbo. Buom Tingang is the actor who plays Tibbo, and they do a really nice job.
Yeah, definitely.
That is somebody who is all right, mate, everything's fine. Yeah, it's all good. It's not, though, is it? I don't really want to talk about it. He just portrayed it brilliantly. Yeah. And even he doesn't even quite know exactly what's wrong. But that's how that works.
Yeah.
It
felt natural.
It's not always a thing that makes you feel that way.
Yeah.
And the fact that it ends with Ryan convincing him essentially to be please talk to people. And he starts going to essentially just a little talk group, get your thoughts out. And again, a nice little thread from Spyfall Part 1 as well, Tibbo showing up in that one, and getting this notion of Ryan's friends are aware that he's travelling. Yeah. And they're not
and it's making an impact on the friendship.
Yeah.
Because, you could go down the storyline of, he's back, great. But the fact that he isn't there when they need them. Yeah,
and then he's not resentful of Ryan, but he wishes Ryan could be around more.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because this episode sows the seed of Ryan's departure from the show. This is where it begins, essentially.
Right.
The idea that there is stuff to do back home, and he feels like he should be there for it. Graham's nightmare is brief and really horrible.
Really horrible.
The cancer's back, and the doctor who is examining him is Grace,
Mm-hmm.
And she's talking to him like they don't know each other. And then she ends like the prognosis with, "Why didn't you save me?" And she just says it so cold and matter-of-factly. Like, it's really, like, upsetting to see. It's nice to see Sharon D. Clarke again, but it's really sad that it's in nightmare mode.
Do you know, watching that, I wouldn't be surprised if the person that wrote this actually suffers from anxiety and depression.
This one was written, co-written with Chris Chibnall and was written by Charlene James.
Because that's you know, that's so realistic. Thinking of every worst scenario in one is really, really realistic.
Charlene is a playwright, primarily.
Oh.
She writes TV occasionally, so she's definitely... I think that worked for this one because there was that level of kind of the heightened reality and the abstract to it. It was very kind of the sort of stuff you would play with in a theatrical setting. Again, Ryan's nightmare, Thibaut, older, wondering where the hell Ryan has been.
In fire? What was it with the fire?
The world had gone to crap. Like, the world had ended because Ryan wasn't there. And then once he said, like, it's like everything, it's all burning, out on the other side of the flames we see the dregs. And it's like, right, that's good, because it shows that, again, Ryan seeing what Earth could be, seeing what's happening with it to his friends while he's not around, his nightmare has absolutely preyed on that idea of you weren't here, and you not being here has ruined everything. And he knows deep down that him not being there isn't going to end the world, but it's how it feels. The burden, the responsibility of it, the burden of it starting to creep up on him now. And it's done quite well. Who is the person in Aleppo? Oh, yeah, Tahira. Tahira is played by Aruhan Galiva, who's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like the whole aesthetic, actually. They've got a very interesting face. And the fact that the costume kind of highlights just their face allowed them to kind of... They had a very nice presence because what physically works very much for them, their unusual kind of profile, was highlighted for the character. It gave them a kind of... a bit of a fairy tale kind of vibe almost. They were like a fantasy character in the story, in a way.
Yeah.
Especially because like their dream created a creature, and that creature is being used by one half of our villain of the week, Zelin. Zelin and his counterpart. What's the name of his counterpart? Zolin. Rakaya. Rakaya, played by Claire Hope Ashiti, who I feel like I've seen her in something else, but I don't know what. Oh, she was in Children of Men when she was at uni. What the hell? And there's got to be something else. She looks familiar. Anyway, so Claire Hope Ashiti as Rakaya. And she plays that really well. Yeah, it's... Proper supervillain kind of vibes.
Yeah, definitely, because she plays on Graham's good heart and good nature. So, like, he was envisioning her being trapped and she was saying, you know, save me, where are you?
Yeah. And her partner in crime, and essentially her sort of...
Partner?
Well, he's more kind of like her facilitator, her kind of student almost. He sort of helps. He's like her butler almost in a way. Like they're a pair, but she was always. He sort of says like she was always the more creative and the more powerful of us both, and he's kind of like doing things for her. It's very much. It's an equal respect, but he's very much after you.
Yeah,
like that's kind of their dynamic. Played by Ian Gelder, who has a very distinct look about him. I think we last saw... Well, you might have last saw him as Kievan Lannister in Game of Thrones.
Oh, God, yeah.
But he was also Mr. Decker in Children of Earth. So he's Torchwood. So he's been about. He's been about a fair bit. He's one of those actors who's been around. I mean, for Christ's sake, he's the butler in the Hancock episode as Psychoville. He was in Ripper Street. He was in Snatch. Oh, that's interesting. He's already been in Doctor Who, specifically this era. He was the voice of the Remnants in the Ghost Monument.
Oh, the
cloth
cloth
with the whole the psychologically tormenting cloth stuff. He was the voice of those, so he's already kind of had this off-kilter ethereal presence in the show.
Right.
He's done a shed
Is that
load
connected
of
or
TV.
no?
I think more just thematically, the same way that like Gabrielle Wolfe plays the Beast and Sutek. It's the casting as the Beast isn't necessarily saying this is also Sutek, but it's that thematic through line of just something that's death, God, Hades, the devil. Like, whereas this is kind of that thing of the ethereal presence that messes with your mind. I guess they must have gone, we really like him. Could we get him in the show?
You're creepy. Come back.
And he is. The fingers flying off doesn't freak me out so much, but that really got you. You kept going, nope.
I've got a thing about fingers. It's a weird thing about fingers. And just the thought of just hit my neck.
And the fact that once they've been in there for a bit, they look shriveled and black as well.
Ew! And I vaguely remembered this episode, but I probably blocked it out of my memory because I was so icked by it. And when it got to Ryan's friend and the finger was just floating about, I was like, right in the ear as a joke, and then it actually went in the ear because it was like, did you remember that? I was like, no, it's just my worst nightmare.
I love the bit where he literally plays the bogeyman.
Oh yeah, for that kid.
To that kid, that's so yes. There's no such thing as a boogeyman. The moment she goes away, the kid looks around, turns back, and just goes, "That's not true." And it's just like, this giant hulking sort of Grim Reaper looking dude just standing in your room. When I first saw it, I was like, I love how minimal his makeup. I love that it's just give him tattoos in the back of his head. He can do creepy already. Just put him in a robe, and then I love the reveal of what he is. What he and Rakaya are. They're the same sort of species as the Eternals from Enlightenment. They're the same kind of buggers as the Guardians, the White Guardian and the Black Guardian from the 4th and 5th Doctor's eras. At one point, he talks about this as a little game, and he says the toy maker would be proud or whatever.
Yeah.
You're like, right, these guys are in that league. They are old as sin. They're finding ways to stop themselves from getting bored, like the Toymaker, like the Eternals and Enlightenment. They're just doing what they can. And they've decided fear. Fear is something they enjoy tasting and savouring, and the human race, turns out, inflicts fear onto itself all the time. So to exploit that and use that to feed Rakaya and sort of keep her satiated in her prison. And then now she's out, it's like, right, let's go to Earth. Let's get them all. This should be fun. The animation
very pretty
is really cool to explain like their deal. The idea of two societies sort of cottoning on that these were not necessarily gods, but even if they were playing a game with the two civilizations.
Yeah, making them fight against each other.
So they basically screw up their own planets to create an endless trap.
I think that's really cool.
So cool. So cool.
Trap between two colliding planets is just that's pretty badass, to be fair.
Now, I got chips though is the best bit of the episode. I love that.
Yeah.
Now's not a good time, mate, but I got chips though. It's like, yeah, fair. Like, come on in. I don't care if I'm suffering from chronic depression. Bring in the chippies. Spare chippies. Bring in the spare chippies.
Playing FIFA.
The bad guys get dispatched very quickly once it happens.
Yeah.
The trap makes sense. Like, they've got everyone from Aleppo. Essentially, they use the energy and launch them back into the orb because they have a connection point from the star. The star like base that they've got. It's more like a building in the stars. Like they use the because that wasn't created by Zellin. Zellin had just occupied it. He was using it. That was created by the people on the planet. It was there to help maintain the prison.
Right.
And he couldn't get her out alone. He needed help. That was kind of the point.
Yeah.
So he manoeuvred them all into that position. The Doctor took the main control thing, like the orb, from that place, and essentially they used that to whack them both back into it. But to keep it sustained, to keep it like going, it needed to be fed by something, and what that was the fact that it was their greatest fear. It was Zellin's greatest fear to lose Rakaya again, and it was Rakaya's greatest fear to be trapped in that orb again.
Oh.
So they stuck him in there.
Right.
The fear is powering it.
Yeah.
And they stuck that big creature in there just for good measure.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why not? Like, here you go, deal with this thing. It's going to beat you up for eternity.
That creature's now like,
Well, that creature's immortal.
It's going to spend forever just sitting there going...
Well, you hypothesise that they get really bored and start playing like rock, paper, scissors and the creature would keep losing.
Give it a rest, Tony.
Because it'd only play scissors. Because of its big fingers.
Give it a rest, Tony.
But
Tony?
I think they wrap it up as quickly as they do so they can get to the emotional payoff of the episode, which is Yaz's story sort of circling back in on itself and finding the copper. Which is a nice little kind of...
That was really nice. That was a really nice touch. And then you've got...
I'll give you 50 quid, which I know isn't a lot, but you know I'm on a police officer's wage, so. And then just like, but if you prove me wrong, no, but if I prove you wrong, you give me 50p or whatever. Yes, and like that's a nice little button. I like that. The Doctor's not really a feature in this one so much as just someone who's going off on one to have a bit of a jawn.
Yeah,
and that works fine.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it quite a bit. Can you hear me?
Didn't like the end, though, did you?
Yeah, there's a scene that divides a lot of people, and I'm kind of one of the people who finds it really uncomfortable. It's the scene where Graham confides in the doc about his fear about the cancer coming back, and she listens and then goes, "I don't know what to say, so I'm just going to go over here and pretend I'm doing something else, and then eventually I'll think about what I should have said." And it's like, cool. He's confessing that he's worried about cancer to you.
You've given many,
you have reassured lots of people. Like in the last episode, you were asking, what's about like Adam and stuff. Like, how'd you become an astronaut then? Like all that stuff. Like while you were distracted him from an alien disease eating him up. Like,
you know how to do that. So why have you just chickened out there?
Yeah, and it's not. Again, it's also a weird one because it's like, it's not a social sort of embarrassment. It's a friend going, "I'm really scared." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's now I think Jodie and Bradley play it very well.
I laughed because her face is very
the little
cute.
when she scrunches up her little face. Yeah, and his response is played off very well, where he's kind of like, "All right, fine." You can tell he's like, "That's the best I'm going to get, and that's okay because this is you." But it's like in the last episode, she was talking the astronaut through everything that was happening to him.
Mm-hmm.
And here's her friend going, "I don't think I'm going to get cancer again, but it turns out I am worrying about that more than I realised." And I just sort of wanted to say it out loud to somebody.
Yeah.
And for her to just be like, bye. Now, I've had other people talk about, like, the 13th Doctor is sort of, like, on the spectrum coded in a lot of ways.
Right.
And there is a lot of, like, obviously social disconnect that you can have based on kind of where you are on the spectrum. Like, you can kind of find it difficult to have those moments or to focus on, like, another person's struggle and things like that. You just can't quite do it. And it's not ignorance, it's just kind of how your brain's wired. It's, you know... but, like...
That's not a subtle thing.
Yeah, it was very odd.
It's very emotional.
To me, it didn't feel like it was portrayed particularly well.
Right.
And not in like they did that wrong, just as in I'd kind of hope that regardless of whether they not know what to say or not, a friend would at least kind of go, "Come here," and just give you a hug.
Yeah.
And be like, and just say, "I'm not really sure what to say. But, like, I'm here."
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Just anything like that. And instead she goes, "I don't know what to say. I'm going to do a thing so you leave me alone now." It's like, wow. Yeah, it doesn't sit right with me. But I don't think it ruins the episode at all. It's very brief.
Yeah.
The Haunting of Villa Diodati. Or Diodati, rather. This one's great.
Yeah.
This one's so good.
Love a spooky historical.
It's so good. And also the fact of, like, there's no such thing as ghosts. And then by the end of it, it's like, no, but does anyone have the answer for like the maid and the little girl? Who?
Maybe there is ghosts.
Oh God, like, yeah. Like I don't hate that because it's quite funny that the Doctor's at the point now where they're like, maybe there is ghosts. I don't flipping know. When in the past they've been very much like, no, there isn't. But it's fun, isn't it? Or in Pertwee, it's like, nope,
there's a reason for it.
Shut your mouth. Yeah. But of course, this is the one where we get Mary Wolfen. Oh God, Wollstonecraft Godwin, Lord Byron, Claire Clement, Dr. John Polidori, Percy Shelley, a butler called Fletcher, who has a Wikipedia article. William Fletcher, Lord Byron's valet, was often the butt of humour by his famous master.
Oh, was he real?
Yep, he's a real dude.
No way.
Yeah, we don't know how he died, so they went, well, I guess he died of a heart attack after a Cyberman, like, threatened him. Okay, sure. But of course, Mary Wollstonecraft Godwin is more famously known by another name nowadays, of Mary Shelley. And she was at the time. There's a whole thing of like she's already using the name.
They've had a baby, but they're not married.
Oh, scandal! Yeah, like it begins with a premise that's very clearly going to be stuff's going to go on, and like she's probably going to be inspired to write Frankenstein.
This is well.
In fact,
this is the night that inspires Frankenstein.
Yeah,
because they're sat around telling each other spooky stories.
It is so careless that they're there, though. But they're just like, look, it would just be cool to be there when it happens. But oh my God, do not influence things, please. And then the Doctor starts to influence it, and the fam call her out. She's like, look, I'm gonna be honest. I'm a little worried that something's already off track because Lord Shelley's not here. Percy Shelley is not here, and he was, based on all accounts. So what is going on?
Yeah.
Essentially, it's a haunted house with a explanation. It's a perception filter. It's there to confuse people and ward them off, try and stop them from ever kind of going to the basement, where it turns out Percy Shelley is hiding something that the lone Cyberman is after. Can you remember first watching this one, having no idea it was a Cyberman story, and then seeing a Shad for the first time? Because I remember it. I remember being like, oh, well played.
Yeah.
Well played. Because there's no indication until that silhouette arrives in the hallway and he turns and you see just like the one proper handlebar and you're like, oh my God.
Spooky. And then you're like, why does he look like that?
A creature made from different body parts, brought back from the dead. Yeah. Like, there's lightning involved.
And they tried to play on that, didn't they? With Mary Shelley, trying to...
She kind of, like, you see the spark happening in her inspiration, in her imagination as they're talking about him.
She's trying to, influence his human side. Saying,
because she sees the monster as the victim, like he bloody is. In the novel,
that people are trying to make it seem.
Don't. This meme is like 6 years old at the time of this video going out.
I just can't believe how old it is. I just can't believe how stupid it is.
Context, someone online wrote like these woke people saying that like Frankenstein's monster was the victim. And it's like, tell me you've never read Frankenstein without telling me you've never read Frankenstein.
You don't even need to have read Frankenstein.
Like is the monster scary? Yes. Does the monster cause harm and destruction? Yes. Is it the villain of the book? No. The villain is Dr. Frickin' Frankenstein for playing God. Like, it's, oh my God. But yeah, I love that they lean into that. I love that the perception filter allows for some creative haunted house stuff. Like the flashes of a spectre that we later learn Shelley himself trying to reach out and tell his friends like where he is.
Yeah.
It gives us the bones misbehaving, which is a creepy visual. Like
that is a creepy visual.
Skeletal hand and the skull. We get the never-ending corridors. The doors vanishing.
When they're going upstairs and they're going downstairs and they appear upstairs and they're just really confused.
Yeah. Sorry, we should probably put a more appropriate decoration in for this one. There we go. So there it is. And that's all a lot of fun, and the fact that then the Doctor kind of twigs, it's like it's a perception filter. We're not seeing what we want to see. We're seeing anything but close your eyes, concentrate, block it all out. And as soon as they do that, kind of that moment, like Mary finds the
finds the
doorknob,
door,
she opens her eyes, and suddenly they can see the door again because she's made contact with it. There it is.
Yeah.
The way that leads to Dr. John walking, because they set up the idea of him sleepwalking, and that's what disconnects him from it all. Like he's walking through the walls and like seemingly upstairs as well through the walls, not because he is, but because he can't see anything. So he's genuinely walking through the rooms and the house properly in his sleep, and everyone else is like, "The hell, man!" Yeah, I love that. The Doctor kind of finally snapping, because this is where the lone Cyberman Jack Harkness warning from Fugitive pays off. The idea of there's a Cyberman out there, it's after something, you must not give it what it wants. Now, the dumb thing about that is it makes it seem like Jack somehow knows that one day the Doctor will face down the Cyberman specifically. Yeah? Maybe the warning should have been, the Cyberman is after only one thing and it must not be allowed to have it. Because the wording of "don't give it what it wants" makes it sound like Jack knows the Doctor and the Cyberman are going to face off one day and she's going to have the thing. Do you know what I mean? It seems a bit like...
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense, like, if he's come from a time in the future where he knows that that's the problem, but then he doesn't know that the Doctor's a woman.
Yeah, and he also, like, if that was the case, then time always was that the Doctor does give it the Cyberium in exchange for Shelley's life, and then she goes to try and deal with it after the fact. It's a bit sloppy there. It's not quite Moffat layering it up and never explaining it sloppy, but it's just a bit like, oh, okay, sure, whatever. I don't think it delays or messes with the progression of it as a threat at all, but it's just a bit like, the more you think about it, you go, huh? I'm not quite sure what that means.
Yeah.
The Cyberium's a cool idea. Like, it's the Cyberman version of the Matrix, essentially. It's the repository of all their knowledge. It is a sentient database. It's an AI that strategizes and learns and plans and schemes and needs a host to sort of carry it, and it ends up in Percy Shelley and then eventually a shard. Let's talk about a shard.
Can I just ask, how did it get in the river?
So it was... So people... We learned that the Cyber War's been raging on. Like, and that's been touched on in the future, in the past in stories as well. It's set in the future, the idea that at some point the Cybermen and the human race across the stars are at war. And we are now at what is seemingly the tail end of the conflict, where both sides have near enough wiped one another out. And part of that was down to a human resistance getting hold of the Cyberium and using what they could to blast it backwards through time in an attempt to stop the Cybermen having it anymore, so they could no longer plan perfect strategies, plan massacres, like, utilise that database. Somehow they managed to blast it back through time. It just turns out that where it ended up was in the lake at Villa Diodati. Like, that's where it went. Because we learn more about that in the finale when Koshama says, like, I guess we didn't send it back far enough.
Yeah. Something I really liked in it was the fam dancing. That was very cute.
That scene was very funny. And the near duel when Ryan's like, what is it? Yeah, you what? Where he's like putting his jukes up.
Yeah.
Like, that's brilliant.
He's got a gun. He's got guns.
He's got a gun. Graham is going to get a gun. Yeah. You're slowly being won over by Ryan.
Well, he's very charming.
When Tozin gets to play comedy, he's a lot more entertaining.
Yeah, definitely. And Byron trying to flirt with the Doctor, and the Doctor's just not having any of it.
Yeah, which obviously screws him over, because Claire later on is like, yeah, you were flirting with her in front of me, and then you used me as a human shield. Jog on, mate. It's like, fair enough. A shard.
I shan't.
Oh, God. What a design.
Yeah, that's great.
Like, little bits of... Because, again, it's the implication of the Cyber Army was taking as many people as it could. We learn over these 3 episodes that this dude was basically a violent psychopath who went, yeah, absolutely.
Sign me up.
Sign me up. I don't care about my family. Let's go. And it didn't quite finish, and he scurried off, like, believing he was a freak and rejected stock. and then comes to this realization of, no, I'm here for a reason. I've ended up like this for a reason. I am going to execute a plan. I'm going to bring back the glory of the cyber empire. But that means he's got emotions in there. That means he is partly organic. We see his human face. We see his human arm. He's sort of in the Neil Gaiman era Cyberman armor, but he's got a bit of the Mondasian kind of boiler suit thing going on. I love the kind of Iron Man style glowing chunks in his back and everything. He looks so good, and he's played really, really well by Patrick O'Kane, who has a ball over these 3 episodes, just proper creepy villain, where he snaps the maid's neck without a second's hesitation. And we don't see it, we see the action when we hear it.
Yeah.
He just leans into the chest that she's
screaming
hiding in,
and then she
and just
screaming.
twists his hand. Yeah, and she's gone. Oh, that's so scary. And then he lifts up the baby, and he examines the baby, and they later on just find the baby, in blankets.
Just on the floor.
It's so we didn't kill the child. And it's what we kind of know is that the kid doesn't have a very particularly long life.
And he literally sensed that it was weak.
Yeah. And he was like, I'm just going to leave them. They'll be fine. They'll be dead eventually. What's the point?
What did he call it? A runt?
Yes.
Oh.
That bit is wonderful. Mary Shelley, like you said, she tries to appeal to his better nature, and he starts to open up. But that was all an excuse for him to then reveal basically exactly how he feels.
That was pretty brutal when he was saying that he slit his family's throats. It was like, flipping heck, don't worry.
Yep.
Kids show.
But what kind of guy would willingly become a Cyberman?
Yeah.
Not exactly somebody who's all together.
True.
At that stage of their creation, obviously when they first are created, it's because they're all desperate and they're dying, and they're like, quick, give me these body parts and keep me alive, and blah, blah, blah.
He looks a bit mossy and mouldy.
Yeah, his flesh is rotting.
Yeah.
And then we've got the Doctor, the whole flat team structure sequence. The whole the team structure is not flat. Sometimes it's mountainous, or me at the summit.
Oh yeah.
She gets nasty in this, and it's more because she's enraged at the fact she's having to make this choice, but she takes it out on her friends.
Yeah.
And you realise she's snapping at them because in her eyes she's like, I've gotten too cocky. I've gotten way too cocky. She basically says without saying, you've let my guard down. You've made me let my guard down. And you think about the last series in this, they have been skirting very close to big events, significant people. They have been a lot more careless.
Yeah, definitely.
Than the Doctor would normally be.
That's true. I don't know if I thought about it, really.
Yeah, and it's it's not their fault. It's not their fault.
You are the one with the ability to do that.
Yeah.
And take them to those places.
But she kind of plays it off as this is why I'm guarded. This is why I don't tell you everything. Because I shouldn't have to. Because, it's the whole, I'm a Time Lord, I walk in eternity. It's all that kind of stuff. I know you're a Time Lord. Oh, Tom and Sarah. Tom and Liz, the Doctor and Sarah. Anyway, but it's the whole thing of she makes the call here to save Shelley's life, and then is right, we are going to fix this, and she owns it by the end. She's this is my mess, my mistake. We are going to fix it.
She's like, I'm going to take you home, and they're like, no.
I'm not. Nah, we're coming with you, mate. We're coming with you, fam. Sniff TM. I really like Haunting of Villa Diodati. It's creepy and beautifully shot. This one's directed by Emma Sullivan, who does a really good job.
Good show.
What did you think of Ascension of the Cybermen, Part 1/Part 2 of the 2/3 part finale? It doesn't really work as its own episode. We're back in 2-part territory, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no!
I'm going to put this away now. It's me hand.
I am suffering from a problem called villain fatigue.
Okay.
I've got to say, I am a little bit tired of Cybermen. The fact that they look so different every time. Sorry, Nick.
Well, do they? Or is it because the last time we saw them, we didn't see the Cybermen we're used to? We went back to the old school ones and everything.
Yeah.
I don't hate the designs of the warrior class. I think they look pretty great.
I don't hate the design. I'm just saying that it's annoying that they keep changing it.
Well, it's weird because you think they do it for all the reasons that we cynically would believe, which would be like merchandise and all that stuff, but they don't really make any merchandise of these new guys. I think they got an Eagle Moss figure, the die-cast, and that's it. So we've not even had, like, the cyber warrior class or the cyber masters, as we'll get to. Like, we've never had them as a toy, so it's like, what was the point?
Weird.
That being said, I do like the idea that Ashard's like, yeah, I'm just going to strip all the organic part out of them because it's not important for my plan. The Cyberium and I, now that we're one, have decided that the only way we win is by wiping out biological life completely. We don't need to convert. We will just be, we will be automatons. We will be robotic. And the Cyberium will be our lifeblood. It will be the thing that tells us what to do and where to go. And, so I've got this. I've got, what's it called again? That he's got. Death particle.
The death, yeah.
Which will wipe out all organic life on a planet, but he's trying to get it to the scale where it could do it to the universe.
Where did he get that from?
Well, that's the thing. We don't learn outright, but we learn that, like, the Cyberium has helped him figure it out.
Yeah. Because it's in his chest, isn't it?
Yeah, he's storing it in there.
Like a scary Iron Man.
Yes, like a scary Iron Man.
Ah!
And,
God, did you hear that? That was my knee.
We meet our sort of last group of survivors as well, who were all pretty good. Like, everyone plays it well. Like, you absolutely believe that this is a team that has been able to just about get by in this settlement unnoticed. I almost wish we had an episode from their perspective to kind of get a sense of what led them to that point.
When is this supposed to be set?
In the far-ass future. Like, really far along. They're not on Earth.
So that they're not on Earth?
They're not on Earth. This is after humanity's spread amongst the stars.
Oh, right, okay. I was going to say, because why has the Doctor never mentioned it before? Like, in previous incarnations, I mean. But
the Cyber War?
Yeah.
Yeah, it has been mentioned. Some of the older Cyberman stories are set during that period.
I thought that was against Time Lords, not Earth.
No, the Cybermen have never gone up against the Time Lords.
Just one Time Lord.
It's as easy as pie. Except when they have to walk across a chessboard on the floor. It's Hurdle's horn. You seek immortality. No, I'm right.
No,
all right then, laters. Peace out, A-Town doctors.
What's that? It's like his face appearing and disappearing.
God, I love that story. So yeah, okay, let's talk about the two as a twofer, because it's a two-parter, let's be honest. The only thing that distinguishes part one from part two is that part one is, it's seemingly a Cyberman story, and end of part one's like, actually, it's a master story with the Cybermen in it. The other distinguishing factor, of course, is the story of Brendan, which this is the second ever time since broadcast that I've watched these two episodes.
Right.
And as a result, I've had a lot of time to think about him. Because the Brendan thing, I remember the first time being like, what is this? And then in the second part when it's like, oh yeah, you've been seeing this, haven't you? I was like, what? Because there's no indication of that in part one. And there still isn't. However, knowing the intention behind this story, what Chris Chibnall was going for, and then knowing in part two the idea of, yeah, you've had these visions of this police officer in Ireland. I've seen that as well, because it's in here. It's the only bit of information left in the Matrix from this period of your history that is completely wiped. And I don't think it's real, but it's a clue. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's the notion of the Brendan story is that it's not a real thing, but it's kind of like a placeholder. Do you know what I mean?
I find that all very confusing.
It's like, okay, put it this way. The truth about the Doctor's past is the, let's say, pick a mysterious object that could be easily hidden.
A crystal ball.
Cool. I mean, no, but okay. So
an amulet.
Yeah, there you go. Right. Say that, Yeah?
Mm.
The Doctor's past, the story of everything that's actually happened and what it's all about, is this amulet. Yeah?
Right.
And it's in a big library somewhere.
Okay.
And eventually, you find the book that is secretly the place the amulet is hidden. Like
Okay.
it's got one of those little carved out bits in
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
And you get to the book in this big ass library.
Mm-hmm.
And you open
John
it.
Wick appears.
And you open it. Oh god, I don't let him in the library. Remember, I'm that guy's neck. You open the book and there's no amulet.
Yeah.
You turn around and there's no other books in the library either. The library's empty.
Yeah.
But you've got this book and the shape of the amulet inside, like where it should be, and it's your only context. That's the Brendan story. The Brendan story is the book.
Right.
It's this thing that is there to suggest what may have happened. Because there has to be something in there. And the Master implies as well, maybe it was Tecteun, maybe it was another Time Lord, whatever. It's like this little clue that's just been put in there. It's in your head somewhere. It's in here somewhere. It's just
So
this
it
little
happened
story
to somebody,
this,
but we don't know who.
No, it didn't happen to anyone.
Oh, I'm confused.
But think about it. What happens to Brendan? Brendan is found on a road.
Yeah.
He's taken in. He is raised. Eventually, the people who raised him bring him into the world that he sort of was introduced to. In this case, like the police finding him and stuff and all that. Yeah?
Yeah.
Like, goes into it. He becomes part of that. And then works with them. And gives his life to them and serves them. And at one point, he seemingly dies in the line of duty, but he comes straight back.
Yeah.
And he's fine. And he does it again. And maybe that happens a few times. Who knows? And then one day, when he's kind of finished, and you get the sense that he's like, I'm done now, or I want to put this behind me now. Those who found him in the first place and started him off on that journey in the first place show up and wipe him clean. And they specifically say you won't remember any of it. It's what happened to the timeless child.
Yeah.
Found, raised, made a part of their society, made a part of division. They took from them, like, everything. They gave service, or in the Doctor's case, their DNA was used.
Yeah.
The Doctor has very likely died several times, well, we know the Doctor, as a child, was killed several times in the name of the research.
Yeah.
But probably died several times whilst part of Division, working for Division. This law-keeping thing, this sort of secretive thing. And then one day, either because the Doctor rebelled, or because Division were like, right, we need to wipe the slate clean now, and we can't have you giving anything away, or you're becoming too much, or whatever, they wipe the slate. The next thing you know, you've got a young boy growing up in a Shibogan community in a barn on the outskirts of the Citadel, who eventually grows up to be the Hartnell version of the character that we know. And as far as they've always known, that was their first life. Brendan is the Brendan story is kind of this little fable, this little weird Twilight Zone episode that embodies what happened.
Ah, okay.
So it's not real, but it kind of tells you everything. It's a clue.
Christopher's very good at explaining things.
And right down to the clock. Like, his retirement present is a clock.
Mm.
And then he's reset.
Yeah.
When Time Lords, like in this series, when a Time Lord disguises another thing, is no longer a Time Lord, is reset, chameleon arch, there's a fob watch, that's what we're used to, like that kind of thing. Or in this case, it was the glass of the lighthouse, it was a small circular thing, like the display of the clock, it's a small circular face on a glass front. Like, it's just these little kind of thematic touches. I really like the Brendan stuff on reflection.
Yeah, you said that as you were watching it.
The first time seeing it, I was like, no, what the hell? Now, I really appreciate it. And we've also learned a lot more about that story and the Timeless Children story. Since then, because Chris Chibnall has given an interview where he's openly talked about where he was coming from with this. Not in terms of what it means for the character, but why he wanted to tell this story.
Okay.
Chris Chibnall is an adopted person. He was adopted.
Oh.
He was an adopted child, and that comes with some perspectives that you don't get if you're raised from birth. That comes with perspectives you don't get if you're child of like one of two or three or four. Like,
Yeah.
you kind of see things differently. You have family, you understand it, but you can't help but wonder why. Why did it start like this? What reason could there be? There's abandonment issues there, whether or not you actually don't mind really. It's like, no, I'm happy with the family I've got, I'm not really fussed. But a little bit of you will always be like, why did they do this to me?
Yeah.
Or how could it have been different? Or I hope they're okay. Or whatever. Yeah?
Yeah.
And that's the Tecteun story. That's the idea of the Doctor was a foundling. The implication here, because it's the whole thing of like the boundaries that's set up in Ascension of the Cybermen, it's a boundary. Ko-Sharmus looks over this boundary that takes people to another world for safety. Boundaries are sort of a little break between universes. Remember, Gallifrey's still sort of tucked away slightly.
Yeah, in its bubble.
Yeah. So, Tecteun on this planet, millions of years ago, finds this child by the tower beneath a boundary. The Doctor is from somewhere very different entirely. And we'll never quite know where.
It's crazy.
They are the first thing that could regenerate. And Tecteun took that from their child.
That's nuts.
Yeah. Right? So there's some great stuff here. Now, this one...
So can...
Go on.
Can Chris Chibnall regenerate?
I don't know why the Baudelaires were always so worried. Like, they could just regenerate, it's fine. Little Orphan Annie, regenerates, you know what I mean? No, like, anyone watching this right now who, like, no longer has their parents with them, I'm very sorry for your loss, but don't worry, if you fall off a cliff, you'll just regenerate.
No, that's
what not Chris has learned from this episode.
Do not try that at home.
So...
Or anywhere else.
This episode, this two-parter, but specifically The Timeless Children, which I love the title, The Timeless Children, because it has so many meanings.
Yeah.
But, like, this episode is despised by a large portion of the fandom. And can I be one of the first to say it? Don't get it. Don't get the hate.
No. Is it because it's changing the Doctor's past again?
Yes, but here's the thing. What did we know about the Doctor? They ran away from Gallifrey.
Yeah.
They left with their granddaughter. And then we've basically seen everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
In the 7th Doctor's era, we get... No, the 4th Doctor's era and the 3rd Doctor's era, we get little allusions to their life at the Academy. Like, oh, Theta, how you doing? And all that stuff. Like, the Master being a friend from the school days. Like, we get all these little hints. In the 6th Doctor's era, we learn about, the Rani. Oh, we knew the Rani, yeah. In the 7th Doctor's era, we start to get a little bit more. The Cartmel Master Plan begins in the writer's room, and we start to get the idea of, like, wait, the Doctor was Merlin. Wait, there were 3 founders of the Time Lord Society, Rassilon, Omega, and the other. Why have you got the hand of Omega? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Like, do you want to know who he really is? And all that stuff. Like, there's the setup of there is more to him. And it never got resolved.
Yeah.
The modern series wipes the slate clean. The Time War gives us a nice sort of like fresh canvas to tell stories from post-Time War.
Yeah.
And eventually we get to the 12th Doctor's era and Moffat starts to do more of that stuff. Not much of it we enjoyed really, but the idea of like his entire ethos begins with a fateful meeting with Clara under his bed one night. The idea that like myths have sort of built him up from the beginning. The idea that actually he ran from Gallifrey because he was frightened of something called the hybrid and all these things. Like, Moffat also plays with Sandbox in the same way. Not in a way I like. Like, we talked about it, I hated the hybrid story. I really don't like the idea of the episode Listen. Like, I don't like it at all. And maybe that's why I have no issue with this version. Because this, as the Ruth incarnation in her head says to her when she's in the Matrix, doesn't change a damn thing about who you are.
Yeah.
Doesn't change it. You are no less the person you were before you learnt this. There's just more to learn, if you want to.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, yes, you've got to deal with sort of the horror and the grief and the
The unknown.
The unknown of this, but like, you are the Doctor. That is who you are, and that doesn't change.
Yeah.
And that's important. Like, I like that a lot. And there are a lot of people who just go, disrespecting William Hartnell. How is it disrespecting William Hartnell?
What?
Well, he's the first Doctor who set it up. Yes. Metatextually. He's the first Doctor because he's the first one to star in the television show.
Yeah.
He's the first incarnation, even as far as the Doctor themselves know. That was their first life. That's who they were. And he doesn't call himself the first Doctor. We call him that.
Because he's the first one we've seen.
Yeah, we name the Doctors so we can identify which era we're talking about or which actor we're talking about. Mm-hmm. That's why they're called first, second, third, fourth. Like, I thought we'd all got over the fact that that isn't like a religious text by the Moffat era where he really plays with that stuff. War Doctor, 9th actually being 10th, 10th actually being 11th, and the 12th, 11th being the 13th, 12th being the first of a second life cycle. Like, none of it is changed by this.
Yeah.
If anything, it tantalises and reignites some of the earlier mysteries. Maybe the person Morgaine is referring to, maybe the other, isn't the Doctor as they remember, but there's something in him that makes him feel like, I should know more about this.
Mm.
I think I know more about this. Maybe the 7th incarnation is the first one who kind of starts to feel that he's something more again, feel he has a connection to those things. Or maybe he doesn't, and he is as clueless as we and Ace are when like people start bringing it up. Certainly explains all the other faces in the bloody machine in the brain of Morbius, which no one ever had a problem with.
Did they not?
I mean, they did at the time, and it's one of those where every now and again people go, oh, it's weird that, because it's implying that there's more Doctors before the first Doctor, but it never became a, oh my god, let me do 70,000 video essays about why this is the worst thing ever to happen to Doctor. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Guess what, mother truckers? It's got an explanation now. The only thing it muddies up is why... So Jo Martin is presumably an incarnation prior to Hartnell. That's why Division's trying to recall her. That's why she and Lee were on the run from Division.
Mm.
Why a police box? Why are they called the Doctor? I have no issue with the idea that prior to the Hartnell incarnation, they were already kind of forming who they were going to be.
Yeah.
Just because their mind and memory and everything got reset, just because they were reset, doesn't mean they weren't going to start to, inkle back toward that again.
Did you say inkle?
I did. Why wouldn't they? Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
The last incarnation of the Master that we saw on screen was redeemed.
Yeah.
And now this one's a murderer who's committed genocide.
Yeah.
The different incarnation, so Dewan is closer to how Missy was, to how Sim definitely was. It's Delgado's scheming on a grander scale. It's Ainley's sort of lust for chaos.
Mm.
He casually kills people off like it's no big deal, like the Bruce incarnation. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
It's not a big stretch for me to believe that pre-Hartnell, at least one version of the person that became the Doctor called themselves the Doctor. Hid on Earth. Maybe the TARDIS looks like a police box because it appears that way to the 13th Doctor, so she can see... it's like the TARDIS is basically changed to be like, hi, here's something... Yeah, maybe it was disguised as a police box because it got stuck before. Maybe it's a completely different TARDIS and the Doctor just kind of has a liking for it. And then at some point, cocks up the chameleon circuit themselves without realising it. Because a little part of them misses what it looks like. Just because an unearthly child doesn't be like, oh no, that shouldn't be. Doesn't mean that he's done it knowingly.
Mm.
Doesn't mean that it's the first time that a TARDIS has looked like that for the Doctor necessarily. Hey, guess what? Maybe she's from between Doctors 2 and 3. Maybe she's the Doctor Season 6B Doctor. Maybe it's grey-haired Paddy for a bit, and then it's this version. Who bloody knows? That's the point.
Oh, I'm confused again.
We know the whole thing of, the speculation there were more adventures for the second Doctor. After all, you're making me giddy.
Yeah.
And before he's sent to Earth as the third Doctor.
Yeah.
And that's sort of hinted at by him knowing Jamie and Zoe's fates in Five Doctors, by the fact that him and Jamie are noticeably older, outside of it just being, that's because it's just telly, like, let them be older. In the Two Doctors, there's all these little hints that he was on missions for the Time Lords, and that he may have at some point gone, well, I need someone to help me, and he asked if he could have Jamie back, just very briefly, to help him out. Just, there's all these hints. Season 6B, yeah?
Jamie.
In fact, a couple of the books are set during Season 6B.
Oh, really?
Maybe during that time, the Time Lords, threw him back into Division, and that's the Joe Martin incarnation.
Yeah, maybe.
We don't know. Well, hang on, that doesn't explain the regeneration limit. Mate, the 11th Doctor wasn't the 13th until Moffat decided he was in his last story. But they gave him a whole new regeneration cycle. Well, I guess they didn't, because apparently the Doctor can infinitely regenerate, as long as they don't die. So, there we go. Because guess what? They ain't a Gallifreyan. They're a Time Lord, but they're not a Gallifreyan.
Well, that's something I was just going to ask you. It's implying that they're not from that planet.
Yeah, the Doctor isn't from Gallifrey.
What's with the 2 hearts then? Everybody's got 2 hearts.
Could just be the experiments, could be what Tecteun did to them. Could be that Time Lords didn't, Gallifreyan Shobogans didn't have 2 hearts until genetically the race was implemented with regeneration, the capability to regenerate. Because that's what Tecteun did. Genetically put it in everyone, gave it a limit, put it in everyone so that it could be passed down biologically.
Yeah.
So with each new generation of Shibogan and Time Lord, every new generation of Gallifreyan, they would inherit the ability to regenerate 12 times.
Okay.
Maybe that changes their genetic makeup and they get a second heart or whatever. Maybe everyone in that part of the universe has 2 hearts. Who knows?
That was the only thing that was
Because that's the thing about this. Everyone talks about it this changes everything. And it's did you watch the episode with your ears and eyes? It changes nothing. That's what the Doctor learns. She's you wanted to destroy me by telling me this. Guess what, mate?
Nah.
Nope. Now, is it going to eat away inside her a bit? Of course it is. Part of us always going to want to know what the hell happened. And she'll find out a little bit about that next series. But it's not her mission. It's not her life's purpose. Because as her earlier incarnation in her head says to her, when has that ever stopped you being who you are?
Yeah.
Boom. Graham, Yaz and Co disguising as Cybermen is great.
Very cool.
Especially when he's I can't get the hat off.
See it, and also in the background, the other person dressed as a Cyberman, just waving in the background. It was really funny. Seeing
Graham's got game.
Huh?
Graham's got game. Got flirty.
Oh yeah. Seeing a Cyberman move in a human.
It's all fine till they have dinner together. He's right, let's say grace. Oh God, grace.
Oh no.
God,
that's so mean. I'm going to say this for the 3rd time.
Yes.
Seeing a Cyberman move in a humanistic way was really weird. Really weird.
Hearing them scream was bloody weird.
Well, you made that horrible.
Yep. I like the drones. I know a lot of people don't, but I like the idea that in their desperation they've repurposed the severed heads of Cybermen to be scouting drones.
Yeah, I mean, if you put in desperation in front of it, it does make sense.
Yeah, well, they're scattered. They're absolutely buggered. Ashard's sort of henchmen who are helping him do stuff are 2 repurposed, Cybus-era Cybermen that are barely clinging together. It's not even the later ones. It's, nope. I've dug these 2 up, they'll work. It's fine.
And the idea that the Master killed all the Time Lords but kept their bodies, that is so grim. This Master is not holding back.
No.
He is scary.
It does suck that this is the 3rd finale in recent years where the villain is the Master and he's using the Cybermen.
Yeah.
It's weird that that's happened 3 times now. Well, I mean, the Master doesn't necessarily use the Cybermen in World Enough and Time and the Doctor Falls, but converting Bill and everything, there's definitely I'm going to play around in this sandbox. But it's weird that we've had like Missy, Johnson Master, and the Dwan Master all basically usurp the Cybermen's plots. That being said, I think we're the only two people on the planet who think the Cybermasters look freaking dope.
I thought they looked really cool.
They look really cool. That Midnight Suns style, like Gallifreyan writing engraved on the cheeks and the arms and everything.
I thought they looked pretty badass.
I like them.
And the thought, there's pretty much... no, that's not true. Knowing that you cannot stop this machine that wants to kill all living matter...
Yeah.
Can regenerate and just come back. That's fucking horrifying.
Yeah.
I'd tap out.
Yeah.
Personally. I'd be like, I'm off.
I like the fact that the Cyberman itself as well is almost like, you want me to kill... Okay. And then when the other one gets up, it looks at it like, huh?
You shot me.
You bloody shot me, you did.
I'm not dead.
The only thing I don't like about this two-parter is the fact that it is like, yeah, Gallifrey's gone. And I'm like, wait a minute. We had a whole thing about bringing it back. And then we dipped a toe into the jacuzzi that is Gallifrey for one story. And that's it. It's gone now. What?
So is it like permanently gone now?
Yeah, it has not come back.
Really?
It has not come back since. It does not come back between now and where we're up to.
Holy
which,
schmoly.
in real time, is currently
much, to be fair.
the 16th of November 2023.
Oh, to be honest, there's not much left, so there's not much, like...
wiggle room for it.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Does it mean it's the last we'll see of Division? Or that story? No! There is more to tell.
How did the Master get out of Carpet Hell?
Carpet Hell, I love you so much!
I love you too.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? We don't have to know.
Yeah, but I need to know.
No, but you don't.
Yeah,
Remember the classic era? Do you remember how you didn't need to know how Ainley came back every time?
But I need to know.
Oh my god, he and Kate O'Mara are about to be eaten by a T-Rex inside a TARDIS. Whatever's going to happen to... Oh, look, he's back at the trial.
Yeah, but how did he do it?
Classic villain behaviour, baby.
No, I need to know.
What, now?
Right now.
Now, like nearly 60 years into the show's history, you suddenly have a problem with not knowing how the Master comes back.
Yeah.
You weirdo. But I like his entrance, because again, it wasn't obvious that was going to happen. So when he shows up on the first broadcast, it was like, oh my god!
Yeah.
He's back!
I had seen this one, but...
not in nearly 4 years, so yeah.
And it didn't have that much of an impact on me because I just didn't care.
At the time, you mean?
Yeah. So knowing that the Master came back, I wish I hadn't known when we watched this, because that would have been like, oh my god!
I can't believe it. I've never been this far away from home. That's what he said.
No.
Why not, though?
No.
Can we talk about Ian McIlhinney as Ko-Shamus?
No.
Cool.
That's it, guys. We'll see.
Grandad Joe from Derry Girls himself.
Oh my god, it is!
There you go.
Oh, I loved it.
He's great. I really like him. And now I see people having an issue with the whole, like, the Doctor's like, I've got to do this, and then he shows up and he's like, actually, I'll do it, and she goes,
oh, I see.
Yeah, I get people having an issue with it, but I think on this rewatch I forgave it a little, because it very much seemed like him going, look, I was part of the team that sent the Cyberium back through time. We should have won, and I've spent the remainder of my life alone, but guiding the occasional visitor through the what was it called?
Thing.
Yeah, what was it called?
The big purple wall.
The big purple wall. I called it what it was before. Like I've been the person sending people through that. Okay. What was it called? Anyway, yeah. Like I've been the person who sent everyone through that.
Yeah.
And I just assumed I was going to be out here until I died. And now I have a chance to, like, I found out that what we did wasn't good enough, and you are here with a chance for me to put an end to this once and for all. Let me do it.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of wish he'd wrestled it off of her, maybe. Do you know what I mean? Like he'd somehow got it from her and didn't allow her the chance to have a say in it. Because at least then you'd be like, okay, Right. Okay. Fine. But I think it's justified in terms of him, in terms of what he wants. It makes sense. I think it genuinely frightens the master because he's like, I was for a split second, I was sure you, because twice in this episode he's like, I kind of hoped I died just then.
Yeah.
Oh well, I guess we'll carry on.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, all right, but that's kind of leaning into the idea of like why he destroyed Gallifrey, because to him the revelation that a part of what makes him who he is because of the Doctor, like biologically, unavoidably, is because of the Doctor's existence. Sickens him, and this Master is very much the supervillain serial killer version of the Master. It's like, okay, right, I buy that. Like, he's sort of like, if I die, fine, because then I'm not me, which makes me sick. Like, I feel sick to my stomach that I am me because of what I've learned about what makes me me.
And it's you.
And it's you.
Yeah.
Dewan and Whittaker's scenes in The Matrix are really good, even though she's mostly sort of reactive. I really like the way those scenes are shot. I really like the whole going around the table with the timeless child on the table in the different incarnations. Then when Tecteun tries it on herself, the camera goes the opposite way, but it's the exact same shot composition. I like the sort of subtle nods to there's a lot of 3 Time Lord iconography, like specifically with 2 always framing something. So it's the kind of Omega and Razalon kind of thing, and so as far as the continuity of Doctor Who's concerned, there's some really nice nods to Gallifrey and its history. Like an out there, completely on the nose reference to the Deadly Assassin.
Yeah.
Because the Panopticon's just through there, and you're like, okay. Is this our 3rd Matrix story? Deadly Assassin.
The one where
the Ultimate Evil, the end of Trial of a Time Lord. Just remember, there's the whole the Victorian kind of bloke in the funfair looking factory thing, and the bureaucracy of it all and everything.
Then there's the one where Peter Davison. Oh no, is that the 5 Doctors?
No, but I think I know what you're talking about. There's a bit where he's kind of suspended in something. He's just sort of floating, but I can't remember if that's the Matrix or not. I can't remember if it shows up in the Arc of Infinity or not. Off the top of my head, or whichever story it was. But this is the this is the modern series' first stab at the Matrix, and it's pretty good, I think. Jodie's good in these.
Really good.
Her sort of panic and anger and whatnot at the start of Ascension of the Cybermen is very good, because you're like, yep, she feels guilty.
Yeah.
She is angry at herself, but she's taking it out on everyone else. She's being snappy.
Scary.
I like her anti-Cyberman weapons, like a little bit of the new series stuff, a little bit of the classic series stuff, like with the emotional inhibitor removal and the gold particles. It's like, that's quite cool. What else? Sacha Dhawan playing it and looking like an evil Troughton.
You kept saying that.
Because he looks like it, like in the wide shots in the Cyberman ship where he's like kind of jigging around and stuff. It's like, that's I'm just getting vibes of Pat, but if Pat was a murderer. Do you know what I mean? It's like that kind of...
He wasn't a murderer.
No, he was a serial shagger. But like... Well. But you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the vibe. It's sort of like he's gone for the impish kind of vibe, and it's good. It's like, it's a really fun take. Because it doesn't match Jodie per se, but it feels like a threat to kind of her vibe. Like, it's almost like he's harshing her mellow. It's
like a bully had lots of pixie sticks full.
She's
of
the dorky
crap.
kid, and he's the sugar hopped bully. Yes. Okay, that's yeah. I take that. That's a good way to put it. And of course, we end on a cliffhanger. We end with Ryan, Yaz, Graham, and the 2 survivors headed back to Earth in the TARDIS, in a TARDIS, which looks like a new build on an estate.
Yeah.
And they have no idea where the Doctor is or when. The Doctor makes it out, gets to her TARDIS, after leaving that extra one as a tree, gets to her TARDIS, and is going to go and find them.
Imagine if you bumped into that tree. And
Well, no one would. It's,
no, I know, but like if a TARDIS were a tree,
yeah.
and you bumped into this tree, and you was like, whoa, and fall into a TARDIS, that'd be so funny.
Oh my god, this tree's like bigger, innit?
This tree's got a room in it.
Room tree.
I'm gonna keep it and save it and have sleepovers in it like a tree house.
Oh god. But then she gets.
That's how.
But then she gets a tenant cliffhanger.
What?
She gets a what?
Yeah.
Because the Jadoon show up and they're like, "Yep, no, hang on, excuse me. You are the fugitive. We're going to take you in."
No.
And we see a shot of her in a prison that very deliberately looks an awful lot like Sharda, which is a nice nod because at this point Sharda wasn't canon. So it's kind of cool that like, yeah, why not? I don't hate it.
No,
I don't hate it at all.
It was shot beautifully. I'm going to say it again. The lighting, the sets, I wasn't a huge fan of the music on this one. I thought it was a bit too light for the emotional stakes that were happening.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's good score, but like, yeah, I know what you mean. In terms of the edit, it felt like it could have been. They could have almost held off on the music in some places.
It was almost a bit too kiddie. I don't know. I don't know if you know what I mean by that, but like too.
It sort of felt like it was kind of trying to reassure the audience a little bit during moments where actually it should have been leading them further into the dread and the mystery.
Like emotional bits where the Doctor was saying, like, don't follow me and stuff like that. I thought it like the music peaked a little bit too much, and it was just a bit like
a bit too much whimsy in the moments that kind of needed less of it. Yeah. I get you. I don't think that's necessarily Sagan's choice as a composer. I think a lot of that was because there's a lot of repeated melodies in this one. I think a lot of that is just where the edit's choosing to put the music that it has, and it's like, yeah, no, I felt you.
All throughout the episode.
Yeah, disgusting. Not bad for Series 12 overall, really, is it?
No.
If it's not counting Resolution, which is flipping brilliant.
Not gonna lie, didn't have high hopes for this series, but I am pleasantly surprised.
So, like, Orphan 55 and Praxeus are kind of the two that were like, yeah.
There's always one, though, in there, but unfortunately.
In this case, too. But, like, the other 8, you had a pretty good time with them.
Yeah.
What do y'all think of these episodes? I cannot wait to hear how people disagree with our opinion of the Timeless Children. Let us know down below. And we will see you next time for the first of our last 3 physical sets at this point. All 3 as yet unopened. We've got another New Year's special to get to, baby! Way! Cockle. Son. What? We're going to have a Butcher's. Butcher's? Butcher's hook? Look. It's Cockney rhyming stuff. Never mind. Bye!